What happened? What went wrong? What can England do? Delighted to say that Paul Newman, who's covering the Ashes, the Athletic this winter, he was with the Daily Mail for many, many, many years, joins me now live on the social on talkSPORT 2. Paul, good afternoon. How are you?
Hi Sam, I've been better to be honest. I've had the sporting weekend from hell, what with the North London derby as well.
I
So
know you're a massive Spurs fan as well, Paul. So that is literally the worst weekend, isn't it?
I've had better weekends, that's for sure, from a sporting perspective. I'm not sure which one hurt me the most, but it's the Ashes we're here to talk about, so we won't worry about that other nonsense that went on at the Emirates just now.
Well,
But
I will be asking you if you're Frank in or out there at the end, so get ready for that.
no, sure, yeah, that's no problem.
Paul, I set my alarm for 5 o'clock on Saturday morning, and England was 65 for 1 at that point with a lead of around 100 runs. 65 for 1 to 88 for 6 to 164 all out. Paul, I appreciate Australia got good bowlers and the pitch was a bit spicy, but that batting collapse we've seen before from England, and it's just not good enough, is it?
Yeah, crazy is the word, Sam, that you used in your intro. It isn't good enough. It's inexcusable, really. It was abject. It was so frustrated because they had the match in the palm of their hands, as you said. You know, 100 ahead, 9 wickets in hand, difficult pitch. They seem to have ridden the storm. We knew that Australia were without two of their best bowlers in Pat Cummins and Josh Hazlewood. Mitchell Starc was world class. He bowled fantastically to take 7 wickets in the first innings. He was obviously the threat, but other than that, you know, it was nothing they shouldn't have been able to handle. And it really was incredibly frustrating because they gave it away, and they've made mistakes like this in the past. As you know, I'm a huge fan of the way this England team do things. I'm a huge fan of Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum, but on this occasion, they got it badly wrong. And it was that afternoon they lost it, losing those 9 wickets in that session. In particular, the three middle order top players who completely gave it away, in Ollie Pope, Harry Brook, and Joe Root. And from there was no real coming back. I know they set Australia 205 to win, and you think, okay, that's the highest score of the match. But another 50, another 70, you know, it would have made all the difference. And Travis Head just came out and batted like God, really. You know, it was one of the innings for the ages, but the match was lost in that middle session, and that will haunt England for many weeks to come, especially if they go on to lose this series now.
So I'm the same as you, Paul. I'm a big fan of this, baseball approach, the aggressive approach, and when it goes good, it's really good to watch. So do England need to find the right balance, Paul, from, when they lose, let's say, Duckett and Pope go in quick succession? Should the responsibility then be on Brook or Root to come to the crease in a tricky situation and maybe just for half an hour or so say, you know what, we're going to keep things pretty simple here. Sure, we can put away the bad ball. Do England need to manage situations better? Do they need to know when to be aggressive, but also when at times, when up against it and the pitch is playing tricky and the bowlers are bowling well, just to know when to almost sit in and play a little bit more traditional cricket? Is that the right balance, Paul, do you think?
Exactly, and you can still be positive playing in that way. You can still be positive even leaving the ball for half an hour. You know, you just have to have conviction in your methods, and it's cricketing common sense, isn't it? It's showing more savviness, really. You know, just be sensible about it. Don't be dumb about it. We knew the problems. It's basic cricketing common sense that in Perth on a pitch with a lot of bounce, you don't play with half a bat. You don't come at it in that 45-degree angle. You know, you don't play those big shots outside off stump. You either have to completely vertical and hit the ball back down the ground if it's full, or you've got to be completely horizontal and cut. You can't play sort of half and half, and they know that. It's been that way in Australia since time began, in Test time began, really, and they all fell into the same trap. So that's self-destruction, really. That's not being overly positive, But afterwards, they almost hid behind Travis Head's innings and said, "What can we do?" It was an innings for the ages, but they as we said, that they made their own. They dug their own grave, really. They really did. Yes, you can just sit in there. That's not being negative. That's not. You can still take the game to the opponent by doing that. Just let him bowl a few balls outside off stump. Let the bowler get tired, and then he'll drift onto your stumps, and then you can flick him away. So it doesn't have to be reckless. That's the bottom line, really. And it was reckless, irresponsible, and maybe a touch of arrogance as well. I'm afraid, in that they thought their way was the only way. And I've heard people say that Head beat England at their own game. He out Bazballed the Bazball as well. What Head was playing was a very positive but very sensible and very skillful game of cricket. Been insult to him really to say that he beat England at their own game. What he did was just a fantastic display of positive intent, which England have, and which is the right way to go. I'm not advocating they go back into their shells now. You've got to show positive intent, but do it sensibly. And as you say, in those passages of play, you soak it up, as Joe Root is so good at doing normally. And nobody would ever accuse him of being boring. They've just got to show a bit more, just a bit more, desire really, not to give their wickets away.
Paul, we've learned a few hours ago that England have passed up the opportunity to give their first choice batters some practice in an Ashes tour game in Canberra. The extended gap created the possibility of players who had featured in the first test joining the England Lions 2-day pink ball game on Saturday and Sunday. It's only going to be Josh Tongue, Matt Potts and Jacob Bethel who go from the squad to the Lions. So none of the 11 will play. It's understood that none of the England players from the first Test 11 asked to play in that game. Should they have been forced to play in that game? Should they be playing in this game, Paul?
I think they should be playing in this. I think the batsmen should be playing in this game in Canberra. Yeah, definitely. Not so much the bowlers. I think it makes sense for the bowlers to get up to Brisbane and start swinging that ball around in the nets up there in the condition. The conditions in Brisbane are very different to Canberra. I do think that the batsmen should have taken the advantage to get a bit of practice in match situations with the pink ball. Having said that, I can understand McCullum's desire to keep everybody together. He's a big one for keeping the whole team together. Let's just let's stay together. Let's talk this through. Let's prepare together. And I quite like that. I mean, the optics of it are not great, are they? There's a lot of very angry people around at the moment. When things go as badly wrong as they did on Saturday, anything that can be used against them will be used against them. But I quite admire McCullum and Stokes's and Rob Key's sort of intent in doing it their way. They're not going to be swayed by public opinion. If they feel this is the right way to go, they should stick to their guns. They shouldn't be chameleons and just do something for the sake of optics, for the sake, oh no, people are a bit annoyed, we better do this, if they don't think it's the right thing to do. It was interesting that Stuart Law, the old Queensland, Australia and Essex batsman, the weekend, the conditions in Canberra are so different to the Gabba that there really isn't very little point. There really is very little point in playing in that game, and I get that. I do get that argument. It was the same as the Lilac Hill argument. Really, Lilac Hill, the warm-up game against the Lions was no preparation for the first test in Perth because the pitch was so different. I didn't agree with those who said they should try and have 3 or 4 games against states. Because the game has moved on and that's impossible really, and there was state cricket going on, there was Sheffield Shield cricket going on at the same time, so they felt playing their own Lions was the best opposition they could have. But where they made a mistake was playing on a pitch at Lilac Hill that was so different to the Perth Stadium, and really the same argument applies here. If they believe that Canberra conditions are going to offer nothing like what they're going to get in Brisbane, then that batsman might as well play in the net. The nets at the Gabba are pretty spicy actually. They normally replicate the conditions in the middle pretty well. So get up there and practice against your own bowlers, where you'll get a better level of bowling. We know this England attack that was the positive from this Test match. That first innings bowling performance was absolutely sensational. That was the best collective bowling performance I've ever seen from an England team. We were comparing it with the West Indies in their prime. It was that good. Obviously, the second innings is a different story. But so I can understand going up and preparing against your own bowlers in the conditions you're going to face. I don't think it's as heinous crime not playing in that match as someone like Michael Vaughan would suggest. He's been very loud and vociferous on that one. But if it was me, I would say to Zach Crawley, I would say to Ollie Pope and Ben Duckett and Joe Root and Harry Brook, why don't you go and have a neck, try and get some runs under lights against the pink ball. It doesn't matter if the bowling is not great, because it just gets your confidence going, doesn't it, to score runs in a match situation. And so that's why I would have gone, but I'm not gonna hang and draw them and call to them over it. That's for sure.
Paul, there's I've got some of the newspapers today in front of me, and there's lots of scrutiny on Zach Crawley again. He got a pair, didn't he? 2 ducks. We know that his place in his England team from the outside has been, lots of people don't think he should be in the team. He's played 50, 60 Test matches. He's got an average of just over 30. His recent form has been poor. In the Mail, Richard Gibson. England's fixation with Zach stinks of a gamble gone wrong. Torres must bring in Jacob Bethel if Crawley fails again in Brisbane. Nick Holt in the Telegraph. Loyalty to Crawley may sink Bazball's ship. Under fire opener's place in Brisbane is secure, but his future is at risk. And also, some of the papers have got quotes from Brendan McCullum saying that he's going to play. You've got faith in him. He's going to score runs. Where are you, Paul, with Zach Crawley? I mean, are you in the camp of Brendan McCullum, Rob Key? He's a great player, and these runs are going to come, or is he a lucky boy that averaging over 30 in his Test career that he's opening the batting for England in an Ashes Test match?
Well, I think it's no surprise that McCullum's not for turning now. I think it really would have reeked of panic if it had gone away from this game plan after one admittedly disastrous match. I mean, 3 years ago when they first came together, Stokes and McCullum, they were adamant that Crawley was going to be their man for this tour. He's played throughout those 3 years without too much success. A couple of fantastic innings, but obviously not consistent success specifically for this tour. And the thinking was he is so much better against faster bowling. And even though he's got a Test average of 30, as you say, Sam, from 60 Tests, which is just not good enough for a Test opener, obviously, I think he still averages 40 against bowling in excess of 87 miles an hour. Okay. So that was their thinking. But where it was exposed in Perth was that the Aussie pitches and the ball, in particularly the ball, is a little bit different now. It used to be just hard, fast pitches, but the ball didn't do too much. Now it seems to be nibbling. This new Kookaburra ball with extra lacquer on it seems to be nibbling more, as we saw from Scott Boland in the second innings. And obviously Mitchell Starc can bowl in any conditions. He's just world-class performer. So their thinking was logical on past Australian tours, but it could be that their thinking is outdated. That's the big worry. Having said that, it's no surprise they're still back in Crawley. There's no reserve opener in the squad. Jacob Bethel was never opened. Okay, they threw him in at number 3 in New Zealand, where he hadn't batted before, and he did exceptionally well. So there wouldn't be I don't think they'd have an issue in asking Bethel to open if it really came to it. But I think they're going to give Crawley the whole of this series. I think he'd have to get 3 or 4 pairs for them to drop him, actually, because they're so committed to this. It's going to be a hell of an examination for him in Brisbane. Pink ball Test. Mitchell Starc, who's got him twice in the first over for a pair. Yeah. It's going to be a hell of an examination for him. But I just can't see England changing. I can understand how they've got to this point. And really, he was only given a 1-year central contract, wasn't he, in the last list of them a few weeks ago, whereas a few other players were given 2-year contracts. And I think that was quite significant. That was quite telling. It's really now or never. Patience is running out. It's this tour he's been picked for. If this carries on, we certainly won't see Zach Crawley in an England shirt after this series. It's whether they take the plunge and get rid of him during this series, which I still think is likely. And I just remember the way he batted at Old Trafford against the Aussies a couple of years ago. I remember that innings against Pakistan at the Aegeus Bowl. He can do it. He is a lucky boy, but he can do it, and it would be incredible from an English point of view if he did it in the next Test. But you have to say the odds are against it.